I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 9, Episode 3 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's slated to come out on May 4th, 2026. I just had a moment there where I was like, May 4th? May the 4th?
Yeah, May the 4th be
May
with
the
you.
4th
Come
be
on.
with you. And today we're going to talk about our AI Meads, the process that we went through them, and then we might talk about the Artemis 2 space mission. We're not sure. It depends on how long it takes for us to talk about the Meads. But we're going to start out talking about these, and I told Ricky he can't drink. Normally he drinks like a little bit of it, and so he can immediately jump into the tasting notes. But you can go ahead and take a sip while I just kind of tell people about that.
Do you want to tell me which this one is first?
No, I want you to sip it, and then I'm going to tell you afterwards. The face. Oh man, the face. The face is so amazing.
That's a drink. That is a drink. It is a liquid that went in my mouth.
His eyes puckered, his mouth puckered, everything. I had the same thing happen to me when I tried it. So this is the s'mores mead that you got to read out from ChatGPT, I believe.
It's so sour.
It is amazingly sour, and I don't know why, because I did everything that it said to do, and it before we got to the point of adding all the like burned marshmallows and stuff like that, because that was the last thing it had to do.
Yeah.
It was fine. It tasted fine. It was like a oaky, smoky kind of flavor, and you can still taste some of that in.
Okay.
Because it had the Bochet flavors, but
so it was good until marshmallows.
No, it was good until the spices and the marshmallows.
The spice and the marshmallows. What were the spices?
Let's see. It's honey, mini marshmallow, graham crackers, mini marshmallows, cacao nibs, vanilla bean, a little bit of lactose, and that's it.
There's nothing in there that in itself is sour, not to this degree.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't taste off. Like, it doesn't taste like this has started to turn to vinegar or something like that.
No.
It's such a citrusy sour, too.
Right.
Wow.
It's weird. It's like something was brought out of the honey because of the way that the graham crackers interacted or something with the Bochet. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, I almost think that we had to have fed some sort of reaction. Like some other chemical processes happened here. We've not put anything in that's actually sour. Unless just the nature of like heating the honey that long causes something.
No,
but then you would have probably tasted it before.
Yeah,
right?
I would have tasted it before. What I think happened is I think it was the mini marshmallows. Because they just kind of set on top of it. It didn't. In all the other ones, the marshmallows we had melt into it, and I think it was the mini marshmallows and the gelatin just setting up there. So, but it, and I kind of thought something like that was going to happen. Adding it like this in secondary. Like anytime I've ever added marshmallows or any sort of like processed thing that's like sugar or something like that, it's always been something where I've dissolved it.
Yeah, so like there are a lot of preservatives and things like that in them. Another thing, if it was all just like really sitting on the top, maybe like just enough oxygen also got introduced with it that we're allowing stuff to grow on top. So it got kind of like a kombucha. Like there's yeast colonies or something that were able to survive on the top, which is why it doesn't have an all flavor. But this acid came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame because I'm going to be honest, once you get over the sour, the secondary and tertiary flavors are not bad.
We're gonna we still have 4 other bottles of this. We're gonna taste it again like at the end of the year and see how it goes because it'll be a year old then.
You think you could fat wash some of this acid out? Maybe.
I could possibly. We could try that. The problem is fat washing is really hard to do on lower proof stuff, and this is a bit lower proof. So unfortunate, but the ChatGPT one that we thought would be the best one, we had the most hope for, did not turn out as good. No. So let's go to the next s'mores mead. Let's go to the ChatGPT s'mores mead that I set up.
Yeah. I will say this though. There is a definite like burn smoky thing to it.
Yeah, it's not that it's ultimately awful. It just has some sort of sourness that
Mm.
like kind of ruins the flavor of it, and it makes it like really. Once you get used to it, the body comes out and everything, but it kind of the sourness kills the body.
Yeah. If it was half that sour and a little bit sweeter, it would be much more manageable.
Right.
You could convince me you put lemon juice in that. It is so sour. I really can't understate it or overstate it enough to the audience. That's it is sour to a level of truly acid feels like it was introduced somewhere, which is why I'm thinking like did some sort of secondary yeast reaction go off because like it's sour, more sour than any sour beer or anything like that we've
Yeah.
ever done. It's like a strong, like
It is kind of like a really sour beer.
but like but that's what I'm saying though. Like we've drank a lot of commercial sours and we've gone to events where they have like really sour
Hmm.
sours and things like that. This is beyond that. This is like halfway diluted lemon juice. It's very
Sure,
very sour.
but what I'm saying is it's kind of like a sour beer. So I wonder if like the somehow the marshmallows, because they weren't dissolved, because they weren't heated, because all that other stuff
Hmm.
didn't happen, they had some sort of yeast or something on them that caused like a Brettanomyces kind of reaction.
Maybe, or I mean, in all honesty, it could just be wild yeast because I'm thinking we're introducing a bunch of preservatives to already a weakened colony of yeast from the brewing process,
Yeah.
right? Because there's just been an alcohol, they're dormant. Then we've put, stuff that has preservatives on that, probably suppressing that more. But wild yeast generally doesn't care about some of that stuff quite as much because it's a little bit more exposed to it.
I did put stabilizer in this because it says to do that.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if that had some sort of effect on it too.
Maybe we're gonna need to drink a little sip of that stabilizer and see if it's sour. Something got introduced here.
So this is the um, ChatGPT s'mores mead that we did. Um,
Mm.
this one is not as bad. It's very young, so um, it's not as sour as the other one.
No, but it's very. I mean, it is young. We need to age it, but
Yeah.
it is very aggressive,
It is,
and it's
very,
kind of like new green alcohol flavor,
Yeah.
much more so than like something we would make.
normally, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I want to let this sit, but if I had to pick for a second glass of one of these, I'd actually pick the sour one first because that one's just sour. Like it's very sour, but there's none of that kind of like unpleasant funk of a really fresh alcohol.
Right.
And this doesn't have a whole lot of other flavor to it. Like it's a little watery. I mean, there are the other flavors you can taste them, but they're pretty shallow, so they get overpowered pretty heavily.
By the funk of the alcohol.
Yeah.
There is a, if you let it set on your tongue for a moment, there is a cocoa and vanilla, and you can, the graham cracker is very subtle.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
it's just kind of like there at the end. It's not
Mhm.
there at the beginning.
yeah. I mean, they're there. This one has a chance that if the newness ages out of it really well,
Yeah.
it could be okay. But I just think the total amount of other flavors is pretty low, and it's overall fairly sweet.
This one
So
also had the hardest time um, with being able to ferment for
Yeah.
some reason.
yeah, because we didn't do Tosna schedule and stuff like that with them.
No,
Right?
we did. We did Tosca with all
Okay.
the stuff. So all right. The way that I would normally do this, if
Mhm.
I was going to make things like this, falls into a similar pattern of what we did here, but I would make a tea with a lot of the ingredients. So like
Mhm.
even with like the graham crackers and stuff like that, making a tincture, that's like something I would do. This one, no, the Gemini had the tincture. This one didn't. So like, there's just things that I would do different
Mhm.
than what they said, and that generally that process adds to a better,
Yeah.
kind of overall like mouthfeel. Sometimes they'll end up being young like this. I mean, this is like, what 5 months old at this point. We started in December over the Christmas break, and it's been going since like January, essentially. Um, so I mean, like this ended up being fine for what I think it was. I think this one just struggled because of something at the beginning. Because we started out at only 1.095,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like a super high ABV thing, but a lot of the like marshmallow flavors and stuff like that, which is basically just vanilla. It has you add vanilla and marshmallow to it, and I don't know that I would have added marshmallow to it.
Yeah, you kind of don't. I don't think need to if you're putting vanilla in, because you're right. Well, like what we associate with a marshmallow is mostly just like sugar and a little bit of vanilla or something like that. Because like no one's making marshmallows out of actual
Right.
marshmallows anymore, which also don't taste great. It was a medicinal thing. So like not saying that you should go and put marshmallow root in your brews, but yeah, I don't know. I think you're onto something though. I think this would be a lot more palatable if the secondary and tertiary flavors were stronger, but you would get a better extraction um, boiling them.
Yeah.
Because normally if you're doing like a very high ABV brew, you can just throw some stuff in, and the alcohol as a solvent will help extraction. But on a lower ABV, like what did this even finish out at?
It finished out at 12.6% ABV.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, not low, but it's not like it's a 16% that would extract a little bit better.
Right, but I mean, even like at 1.1 at about 12% ABV, I ended up having to add a little bit of like sugar to it. It's higher than that because of all the additions.
Yeah, I mean, it does taste like it struggled.
I'm going to correct myself here and tell you that this ended up being no marshmallow. This was the one that didn't have any marshmallow in it.
Okay.
So this one definitely had marshmallow in it, and it was in secondary, and I would not do that. And I think that's the cause for the sourness, because it wasn't sour before I added the marshmallow to it.
Okay.
This one right here didn't have any marshmallow in it, so I'm gonna take that back. Start over. This one, I think, because I was gonna say this one was the one, the Gemini one was the one that had problems because of the yeast, but no, it was this one. This one just had problems from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Sometimes that just happens with the mead. And I think that this one will, in my experience, this one will get better over time.
Yeah, it probably will. It's very aggressively young without too many other flavors.
Yeah.
So like, if it had fermented better, it probably would have been better at this stage. And also, even if that didn't happen, if it had stronger other flavors, it would be easier to drink right now. But this will be a
graham crackers
check back in on it in like 4
really
months.
hard to get strong flavor from. You have to get a lot of graham in the tincture.
Did Graham go directly into this one?
No, it was a graham cracker tincture.
Okay.
So
Okay.
basically
Extracted it out.
extracted it into some vodka, and then took the unflavored vodka and put it into. But
Okay.
this one does the vanilla, does the marshmallows the way that I would do marshmallows, which is to use just vanilla bean.
Yeah. Okay.
So there we go. I probably would have made like a vanilla bean simple syrup to do that, to enhance the flavor, and maybe even like some sort of like like I would have figured out what you use to make graham crackers have the flavoring of graham cracker, and then put that into the simple syrup and use that for back sweetening, like a honey simple syrup. All right, so here we go. We moved on to the the Gemini s'mores mead. So, I poured you a little bit more than I meant to, but oh well.
It's okay.
This one's 13% ABV. Pull up the notes here, just so I have them. So let me just make sure I was right about this. Yeah, this one has the toasted marshmallows that were put into the at the beginning.
This is probably the best one so far.
I don't know if you notice it or not, but it does have a little bit of that sour flavor.
Just a little tiny bit. I think it's for me. It's the best one so far. I still think it's below average.
It is below average. I would not have this normally. It does have the most smoky flavor out of the three s'mores meads
Mm,
to me.
okay, I'd say I think it has more of that in primary. Like when it just first hits your tongue, there is like a little outdoorsiness to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But I think overall in our first one, that had the most flavor because that at the end when you finish it just does feel like smoky or burnt.
I would equate that to being more like a bochet because this one doesn't have any bochet honey in it.
Well, yeah, yeah, but I'm still just saying like overall flavor profile. When you sip this, if you're paying really close attention, I think you can say, oh, and that's got a little something smoky in there. The other one, that's almost like a predominant flavor. Granted, as we said, it really only has
I,
like secondary and tertiary because of how sour it is.
yeah.
But I mean, it sticks out and lingers is the other thing. This one doesn't linger that much. It's on your tongue, but it doesn't stay on your tongue. Whereas
Yeah.
you finish that other one, that burnt flavor's lasting for a good 5-10 seconds.
The smoky flavor is there to begin with. It's much more subtle than the other one too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference between the two for me, and everything's subjective when it comes to this stuff, right? The smoky flavor in the other one tastes more like what I get from smoky flavor from the honey, where this one tastes more like what I would get from smoky flavor from burned marshmallows, is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Um,
It's the almost like carameliness of a burnt sugar versus the just like, oh, this tastes like it has started to carbonize.
right,
Type of deal.
exactly. Yeah, so there's a little bit more of like a carbon flavor on the front with this one. It tastes like a match to me, kind of, which I don't mind so much because like that brings some complexity to it. The one thing that I don't love about this one is that you don't really get the graham cracker or chocolate flavor in it. Now that could evolve later and come out more. In this one, I believe that the graham crackers were put into the
Yeah, I remember we crushed them up
no, this happened at the end.
at the end. Okay.
Yeah. The crushing up is what we put into the tincture.
Yeah.
This one is what we add into the thing, and I think I probably would use, instead of graham crackers, I probably would get some crushed biscuit malt because it does call that out here, and I would probably use that.
I do think that's probably better.
To be able to bring out some of those flavors.
Having tasted all the ones we've put graham cracker in, I do agree. I think going with like a biscuit malt or something is probably a better option.
Yeah, and I probably would make a tincture of the biscuit malt, or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to experiment with that if we ever come back to these and do these again. But this one is not my least favorite. I think if I had to rank the three, it would be the even though I don't love the s'mores mead, I like what the s'mores mead promises it could be if it didn't turn sour. And I like that more than this one, which I like more than the ChatGPT one.
Yeah. Okay. So going off of that sort of scale, I agree with you. I do believe our first one had the most potential because beneath all that incredible sour was some really good flavors. Flavors that I would admit that I didn't think we'd be able to get very easily. Like that one did taste like a s'more to a degree.
Yeah.
If you put Sour Patch Kids in your s'more, then that's for you. Almost to the point. Again, I can't overstate it. It's almost like if you told me you put like sour marshmallows, I believe you. It was just that like almost candy sour sort of feel to it. It was like straight citric acid. But yeah, I'd say just in terms of if you were here with us, audience, and you were like, I want a glass of something, I think what we just had is probably the best in terms of actual flavor.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's the most drinkable right now.
Yeah.
It's the most decent of the three right now. So like if I had to do, and it also has the least amount of sediment. Look at how much sediment is just floating around in this one.
That second one, yeah, I noticed.
And you have to forgive, like a piece of the cork fell off in it, but that one's got a huge amount of sediment, where this one, while it has some sediment in it, is much less. You can kind of see at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's not floating in it as much.
Yeah, none of them. I mean, they clarified in the bottle, okay, but the fact that there was still just that much sediment in suspension when it was
Right.
done is concerning.
Well, I mean, it is what it is
It
with
is
stuff
what it is,
like
yeah.
this. If I'd left them longer, if I'd done, but
Well, but also it's like it's not your place to do because that's not the recipe.
I know exactly.
Yeah,
Now it did say to leave it for like 3 months, but I did that
you
in
did.
secondary. So, you know, it just ended up not working out that well. And as opposed, like if you look at the Gemini pumpkin mead, that's a pumpkin mead, and look at how clear that is.
Yeah.
Same thing with the ChatGPT pumpkin mead. There's a little bit of sediment still at the bottom, but it's not nearly as much. And you know, we're going to start with the ChatGPT pumpkin mead here. And take a look at these. But now I feel like the pumpkin meads got a beautiful color to them.
They do. I'll think most of them have a pretty
Well,
good color.
I take that back about the sediment. This one has just about as much sediment as the other did. I tried to get a little bottle out of every single one, but I just wasn't able to do that with the pumpkin, with the ChatGPT one. So with this one, I really feel like this one captures the flavors of pumpkin and spice really, really, really well.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think flavor balance needs a little bit of work, but ultimately, it's got all the flavors in it.
Yep.
I think knowing that it's supposed to be like a pumpkin pie mead, I can tell you this tastes like a pumpkin pie mead.
Yep.
If I didn't know what it was, I might list off, oh, it's got pumpkin, it's definitely got some spice in it. There's something kind of like bready to it, which would be like the crust side of it.
Yep.
I might not connect all the dots, but this is the closest to a like if we sat down and just tweaked a few things, we might be able to get something really good out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say this is at least average, if not a little bit above average.
Yeah, and while I say that, I want to be clear that the meads all had some form of hallucination in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like if I looked at the original recipes that it referenced, which I did go back and look at all those recipes were a little bit more either vague or well defined in what they wanted you to do. And so there's things that were kind of made up or pieced together. It's not as bad as the first ones that we did, where it was hallucinating things like, you should add, 15 pounds of honey, or you should, do this, or you should do that. Not as bad as that, but it still had like moments where it was like, and only leave this for 3 months. Don't add any of this pectic enzyme. Don't do this. Don't do that. Now, while this pectic haze has fallen out of suspension, I think it fell out of suspension because I pasteurized this one.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Because once you poured it, stayed in suspension there for quite a bit.
Yeah, but it was in suspension like the whole time I had like in the bottle.
Well, yeah, but like when you pasteurize, when you heat it up, the alcohol has a lower density, so stuff falls to the bottom. But now that you've poured it, there's a bunch of stuff still just now sitting in suspension. It's been agitated back to the top. It's at room temperature, so it's dense enough now that it floats.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm 100% agreeing with you. That's the pasteurization process.
Right.
If you took your bottles and shook them up, they just look bad again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was the cloudiest of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
This one's about as, it's got a little bit of sediment in the bottom, and it's going to get like shook up. But this one was about as clear as it is right now.
Yeah.
So let me finish this up, and then we'll talk about the next one.
Yeah. So okay, we're going. This one, well, now I'll just say it's my new favorite, and I'll say even for potential wise, because I think what it really nails that I struggle a lot with in a pumpkin pie mead is the crust. I think it definitely has that kind of like carby flavor to it, that sticks out above the honey. You know, like it's very sweet, but like oftentimes when we like try a commercial pumpkin pie mead, something like that, we're tasting a lot of pumpkin. We're tasting a lot of spice. We're not getting that like gooey crust that you
Right.
love, and especially like a store bought pumpkin pie that's been sitting around for a little while.
And that one did
Mm.
not what's sediment on the bottom did not like
Yeah.
come out very much. So we're looking at the Gemini. That last one was the ChatGPT pumpkin pie mead. This one is the Gemini pumpkin mead.
Mm. It's pleasant. It's a good pumpkin mead.
Yep.
The spice is there, but it's not super strong. It complements the sweetness really well.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes almost more like a spiced honey than it does like a pumpkin pie. And there's no real flavor of crust. But it is a very like mellow and smooth mead with some like spice and pumpkin flavor to it. So that's not bad.
Yeah. It is the closest that I would say if I'm talking about like just from quality of what you got from the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the closest to what I would have made myself off a recipe that I developed.
Yes, I would say I think this is certainly above average for a mead.
Yeah.
I think this
Especially for being the same age as the rest of these.
yes, I think this is the first one you put in front of me that if you said, "Hey, I made this, give it a try," I wouldn't immediately hit you with the like, "Okay, and here's how we need to fix what went wrong." Right? Like this is pretty good. You could convince me this is like a store-bought pumpkin mead.
Yeah.
You don't have the pie, but you definitely do have pumpkin. You definitely have a little bit of spice. This is a pleasant drink.
Well, let me see what I actually asked it because I keep saying pumpkin pie. No, I did ask for pumpkin pie mead for this. So, what I think is it just needs a little bit of that biscuity malt or graham cracker iness in it that you don't get from the other ones. But so of all these, which one do you think was the one that I said we got one good mead out of?
Probably this one.
Yes, it absolutely was this
Yeah.
one. Gemini overall though did the best between the two. I feel like
I do
of,
too.
of
Yeah.
teasing out some sort of flavor profile because this is the Gemini s'mores mead, the last one that we drank. Even though it wasn't our favorite of the three, I
Yeah.
feel like it was the one that got closer to what we were looking for
Yes.
and was the more like something I would make if I sat down and went through the process that I normally go to.
Yeah. 100%.
Now, what was the difference between what these told us to do and what I would normally do? For one, it was the order of the ops. Like it would just tell us to do like, hey, go out and, get like a bag of marshmallows and some graham crackers and put 4 or 5 sheets of graham crackers. It didn't say how big or how many ounces. It didn't give like right measurements or anything like that. And it said to put it in a tincture. Well, that's just going to dissolve. Like how am I supposed to make sure that those flavors come out properly and stuff like that? It did say to get biscuit malt in the one that we used graham cracker in the tincture.
Yeah.
Or no, in the one that we didn't use graham cracker in the tincture for
Okay.
the s'mores mead. It did say to use biscuit malt or graham cracker. I used what we had on hand because we had bought all the ingredients for everything else. I think if I went back and made that again, it would be better if I used biscuit malt and I either boiled that in with the honey and then like in a bag in with the
Yeah.
honey when I boiled the honey, when I made not boiled the honey, but when I made the bochet for this one, and then I added the water. I boiled that a little bit in the water. That I think would have given better biscuity flavors to it. Also, I think the other thing that it did was normally I would leave something like this for 6-ish months to settle, and then I might even try to like do multiple rackings
Yeah.
to get down to like a sediment free.
Yeah. Some of these really high sediment ones do need it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we shouldn't because we're following the recipes. But I'll tell you, some of these, I'm a little concerned they're not going to reach their potential because they've got so much sediment sitting in them. and that ages for another 6 months, that might not be the best.
Well, I've not had that experience with any of mine.
Okay.
My first pumpkin meads and the cherry meads, wet muslin,
Gotcha.
and they ended up being just
Okay.
fine. It didn't affect the flavor because I had a little bit before and a little bit after.
Hmm.
You could tell like slightly difference between the flavors, but it really didn't affect the flavors very much. Overall, I felt like the meads were close enough together that I wasn't disappointed in that, and that's what I'll probably do with these. Like this one, this s'mores mead that's got the super sedimenty bottom.
Hmm.
I probably will just take that, pour it through a coffee filter, or coffee filters leave a little bit of like a papery taste, so
Yeah.
probably not. Probably
Hmm.
uh, uh, um, like some sort of mesh or muslin, and then that'll solve that problem. And I'll just drink it that day,
Gotcha.
or whoever I give it to, will have them drink it that day.
Yeah, that's true because they're pasteurized, so there's not gonna be any more processes in there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah. So maybe we'll see when we try it.
yeah, we'll try them again towards the end of the year. I've got enough bottles of all of these. I don't have any small bottles anymore though. These are
Mm.
the only small. Well, I have one more small bottle of the Gemini s'mores mead. For some reason, it made two
Yeah.
small bottles.
Well, yeah, but still, I guess I'm thinking about it. You're gonna try it again 3 months or something like that. That's aged enough that a lot of these problems should resolve if they're going to be resolved.
Yeah,
So a big bottle is not necessarily a bad problem. It's either going to taste good and you're going to want to drink a whole bottle, or it's still going to be bad.
yeah.
And you're not going to care too much about throwing out a big bottle.
So I think we're going to skip the Artemis 2. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but
story.
I would be interested in your opinion now. I looked in 5 of these AI ones. How do you feel as these AI tools like generating recipes for people who are like new to brewing?
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Go find somebody that is a competent brewer. Go join a homebrew club. Do a lot of research online. Watch a BrewTube channel and get them to teach you how to brew. And then but here's where I think this shines. If I was just like, I really want, like, as an experienced brewer, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I really want something new. I don't have any idea of what I could brew, and I have these ingredients. Hey, ChatGPT, or hey, Gemini. I would get Gemini to do
Yeah.
it. Hey, Gemini, I've got these ingredients that I want to make something with. What kind of mead could I make? And see what it spits out, and if it gives you any inspiration.
Okay, I can see that. I agree with you. I don't think it's a good place to get recipes from. I think, especially early in your home brewing career, or your hobbyism or whatever we call that, that working with some tried and true, tested recipes is your better bet
Hmm.
because you're going to learn a little bit more about how things work. You get to then like the recipe's good, so you're really focusing in on process. And a lot of those, unless you do the process really really wrong, are hard to mess up. Like it's tried and true and tested for a reason. People like it. You're going to get something you'll actually drink at the end of the day. Especially new to brewing, you spent the time and money to go make, half of the things we made
Yeah.
here. You're going to feel a little discouraged that you've got a gallon or two of something that ultimately doesn't taste very good. And I think I do agree, kind of. If the thing that sticks out to me is the biscuit malt.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if I was just like free-handing a recipe, I would have thought of biscuit malt. And like I probably I would have done research and found it. But in that kind of just like, I really want to make something this weekend. This will be done around fall. I want whatever. The call out for like, you should run to the store and get biscuit malt. Be like, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
Right? Like the little things like that are kind of nice. So I can support it a little bit as kind of like a creativity tool. But yeah, when there's so many readily available rock star recipes you could just grab, you should be doing that. And then when you have enough experience, you want to start making your own recipes, you should be using those tried and true recipes as your base and altering those, as opposed to starting off with and here's what ChatGPT told me, and I'm not experienced enough to notice that some of this stuff is weird,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Because
I agree with that 100%. Like, don't like even like intermediate experience. Like, I'm only talking about like if you're an advanced brewer that's been doing
Mhm.
this. You've read the Homebrewer's Bible. You've got, you know, years of experience going to homebrew clubs and stuff like that. You've talked to other people. You've maybe even made like a couple of bad things on purpose. You know, you've done like crazy experiments to be able to figure stuff out, and taking the time to like really sit down and like figure out your niche.
Yeah.
Then an AI assistant is helpful.
Yeah, and I will give AI this. Nothing we tried today was so bad that I couldn't finish my class. You know, even the ones that were really rough, there was like but this might get better over time, but I can see what it was trying to do. You know, I will give the AI models just the like, you didn't make something that just completely didn't work. You did make a mead. It's not at the level yet that I think even a pretty amateur brewer could outmatch.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Like AI is not. If you put AI in a brewery and you don't have it like trained off of your recipes and given it like really strict boundaries and like very strict skills and stuff like that, there's just no way that you're going to go to some general purpose AI and be like, hey, give me a mead.
Yeah, no, you're not. And when I can get that, like, I do think actually that the AI agents do okay for cooking, because I think we did a whole episode that I made like Thanksgiving with ChatGPT once, and that went pretty well. But there's also vastly more content available to consume on a general model for cooking, right? Because there's like there are a bajillion and a half recipes online, but then also all the replacement guides. So like when I say I want something else, you can give it to me. That amount of content doesn't exist for homebrewing.
Let me rebuff with. Well, I had a kid that was staying here. We were keeping him for a little bit, and her and her friend came over, and they were like, "Hey, give me a recipe for how to make a cake."
Okay, but see, that's baking. Baking's very hard.
I understand, but it was like, hey, but there's like so many good cakes are very well defined, especially like a pound cake or something, or like even like a box cake. Like following the recipes instead of like they had the recipe right there in front of them, and they asked like Gemini how to make this cake, and it told them to use. This wasn't that long ago, like around the same time that I was asking for this. It told them to use powdered sugar instead of regular sugar, and it told them to put like a third of the amount of sugar that you're supposed to put into the cake.
Yeah,
that you should be putting into the cake.
Yeah, but see, I think baking does really land in that same place that homebrewing does, where one, there isn't as much information available. There's still a good amount. I mean, I think there is more for baking than there is for homebrewing. But just like homebrewing, baking is a very scientific process, right? Like the amount of sugar, the amount of flour, the amount of milk or water or whatever you're going to put into it, and the hydration levels are so important to be the difference between this is a cake versus this is a bread versus this is a whatever.
Yeah.
I think is enough to really hallucinate yourself into a not great situation. Similar to kind of as we saw with these brews. Like, apart from one or two, none of them are really actually that good. And like, but you can get away in a mead of still being like, okay, but this is still honey alcohol. Right? Like at the end of the day, it can never get too bad. Baking's the exact opposite. You just don't have a cake if you mess it up too much. You've got a crappy bread, if that. And not just a burned mess or a still liquid mess because the hydration was so poor. So I'm not surprised to see it struggle with that. But I think it can get you through like, I want to do a pork roast. Like, it might do some interesting things, but it's still going to taste pretty good. Because what it's doing is it's just like grabbing stuff from different recipes that maybe while at the end of the day they don't culinarily match up as well as they could. Like, there's still a ton of information. Because, like, 30 different cultures do pork roasts. And, like, it might grab something from a traditional English roast to, like, a Latin American roast or, like, an Asian roast. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. Just kind of like when I told it, hey, I don't want any sugar in this. Where I just told me to rub it down in cinnamon and stuff like that. Which ultimately did work. But it was out there.
Right.
But I think the only reason it knew, hey, you can do this is like, well, there's a whole bunch of information that you can substitute these things. And I've got these 40 recipes from wherever in the world where they put cinnamon on it. So that's got to be okay. When you're making a cake and it's like, okay, well, and I'm looking at this cake recipe from this other country that's a whole completely different type of cake. Its ratio is this. And how much sugar? Well, this other country's cake. Like
Yeah.
baking is such a dialed in thing. I can see it.
I, I,
But
I
that's the next experiment. We're gonna make cakes. We're gonna make cupcakes. So that it's easy. We're gonna make 6 different recipes of cupcakes.
oh man, don't get me into that. I think the point though with the meads and the baking is that an experienced baker, even like a mildly experienced baker, would have known something was off
Yes.
with those recipes and said, "Oh no, try it again." If you're a novice and it tells you to use baking soda and vinegar to clean your roast, and you don't actually take the baking soda and vinegar out because you don't think that it's a problem because you're too new, like that would still be a problem. So I still think it's the same issue. You're just less likely to hit it with cooking than you are
Yeah,
with
I think
baking
there's just
mead.
more information for it to catch itself.
Yeah.
I'll give you though. I think you made a good point. Baking also, if you've done any real research, you can detect something's wrong. Like I've just recently, in the last couple of months, gotten into like making more breads and stuff. I make a lot of focaccia and things like that, and I've never messed it up. But the reason I've never messed it up is because so the first time I ever made it, I was like, my dough does not look right. And then I had to play this game of I was free balling. It's like, let's put a little bit more water in. It's too wet. Let's put a little bit more flour in. Okay, that's now looking right. And that was amazing. It was one of my best ones. With brewing like this, you don't get that opportunity.
No, you don't.
So much of what happens is all when it's just sitting in those vessels. You can't really free ball making a mead.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that point as well. Of that makes the home brewing a little bit harder. Is that you're not going to catch something unless it's just truly heinous and like you can't even palate the beginning must.
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's really the problem here. So at the end lesson is you really can't use AI right now. Maybe in 3-4 years it might have ingested enough stuff in its training to be better, but I doubt it. I mean, we're kind of at like a really advanced state for just like general purpose AI without like adding skills and MCPs and stuff like that. So I think where it could become something that would be good is if someone took and made their own brewing AI that was like specialized around. It has looked at 30 million distilleries recipes. It's looked at 20 million beer recipes. It's looked at 15 million mead recipes, and it can tell you, I want to make this type of alcohol, and I've got these ingredients. What can I make?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're dead right on that. I think my biggest concern with general purpose AI also, now that I'm thinking more about the training data, you really got to have good training data. Because no offense to the homebrew community, but I've watched some brew tubers and stuff like that have made things that have been like, that's not going to be good. And they try and they're like, well, it's got these minor problem here. There's like, that's not minor.
That's pretty major.
You really messed that up. Because everybody, I think when people bake a cake, they put a store-bought cake and a homemade cake in different categories. And so a homemade cake, I've not had too many that are truly bad, right? Like if you've got the recipe and you're doing your stuff, everybody kind of knows what they want, like a home-baked good to taste like. A lot of people, when they're making alcohol, are comparing it to commercial. And there's a lot of people who take the stance of, sure, it's not as good as this commercial thing, but like I can still drink it and it's cheap alcohol, and so that's good.
Right.
And so a lot of recipes exist that ultimately aren't that great, but they are alcoholic, and it's better than drinking like straight vodka or something, Whereas I think brewers kind of like us almost put commercial at the middle point. It's like, if it's not as good as something I can buy, then what was the point?
Right.
And ultimately I'm looking for something that's maybe better than what I can buy, because the economy of scale means that they have to fit in certain guidelines, so we don't necessarily have to.
Right.
We can make something impractical that's super delicious because we're making it 5 gallons at a time, and because it's alcohol, those 5 gallons last a long time. So Yeah, I think you're 100% right. A tailored AI that's truly using professional recipes or very, very highly rated homebrew recipes is going to do a lot better than it went onto the forum and said, hey, look, I found a way to make skeeter pea even cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, you
Don't
let,
use sugar, use whatever.
I found out how to make a whole high fructose corn syrup,
Yeah.
white alcohol, and yeah, you need to let it air for a couple days, right?
Before you
But
can
before you
open the
consume
bottle,
it,
let it air for a little bit, let it get a little bit of that
yeah, put it in
mustiness.
a wide mouth jug so
Yeah.
we can get rid of all that acetone flavor and stuff like that. But then, if you mix it with something else, it's tolerable. You know,
All right. Well, I think that is the end. I think that last point kind of drove it home.
Mhm.
So, um, thank you so much for listening. This has been season 9, episode 3 of the Beer and Broadband podcast, slated to come out on May the 4th, 2026. And we'll catch you next time.